we know what's coming. It's going to be here this year into next year. Hopefully they could unwind and it goes back down latter part of next year, but let's see. But what is its effect with multifamily that you're seeing? So, compared to single family investments, is multifamily a little bit more cushion because rising rates would just compress cap rates even more than what they are? And then does that drive purchases outside of California, or you know what I'm saying, in other markets? Trying to find yield. What's kind of your take on all of that?
There's a lot there. So I would say this, that, one thing about this is that about interest rates is it's a large bludgeoning tool, right? So interest rates are not just going to go up in California; they're going to go up everywhere, right? Yeah. Wherever you go in the country, right? So everywhere you're going to start seeing the cap rates start to fluctuate and yields start to, all those things. So it wouldn't matter where you are, I think always the issue more in California has, and I've seen you talk about this on this podcast, is more legislation that worries a lot of folks, and what that means for a lot of kind of multifamily operators and whatnot. But definitely, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that interest rates are going to have an effect on that, and are having an effect on the market. There's no doubt about that. And that said, I think it's not quite as, how shall I say, immediately serious as it is like in the single family world. Like, I feel like single family, it's just kind of like all my mortgage friends are telling me, like, the lever just shut off like 6 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
Like once rates started going into the fives, like people just started like, shutting things off for the
waiting till a couple years later to buy. Yeah.
Whereas on the multifamily side, like, as long as, once again, it's all about numbers, right? As long as the numbers work and, you're still getting certain rates of return and you're still seeing, certain increases, and we're definitely still seeing strong increases on the rent side. Once again, depending on, the legislative world that you live in, where you own. But generally speaking, as we know, there's a housing crisis, and that includes on the rental side, and particularly on the rental side. Yeah. And so, our occupancy rates, like our vacancy rate, we just had a team meeting this morning, is like under 1%.
Wow.
Okay. Wow, so like, just because, like, there's, you have housing as long as it's reasonably priced, and it's, people need housing, and so I think that if you talk to most operators right now, they're under 5%. They're probably at like 3 or 4%, and that's, I think, those are hard rates to beat. There's not a lot of other asset classes where you can have that short of a vacancy. And oftentimes those vacancies it's just about turnaround time. It's like, okay, we might be vacant now, but we won't be vacant, in a few weeks. Absolutely. So that's, I mean, the long-term fundamentals of that are not changing anytime soon, because we're not building housing fast enough.
Agreed.
Right. And it's going to take a while, as we know, to get to that point. So I'm definitely still seeing, trading. It's definitely, people are being more careful about the numbers they're crunching and whether or not it makes sense. People have been going out. We've had a number of folks, definitely sell and then look at buying something out of state. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of people still want to stay in state. They still want something that they can see and they can touch, and that they feel more comfortable with. They may not feel as comfortable buying a 7-Eleven in South Carolina if they've never been to South Carolina. So, or
even though the cap rate is 6% or 8% or whatever they're marketing.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, I still have property in Kansas, and on a price per unit, you can probably get like 100, like a unit for like 100K or less, wow, which is almost unheard of here, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to know that market. And just because you buy something cheap doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get you a return. Like, I've had people buy in Ohio and then lose their shirts because even though the houses were $50,000, they still had property taxes, they still had insurance, they still had all their expenses, and they couldn't rent them out. So everything is totally dependent on what you're looking for. So, but definitely, I think there's no doubt that the market is shifting, and people are going to start looking at their numbers more carefully.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think for us too, even though we've been around 3 years and we're obviously advocates for new multifamily development, I think we're agnostic in the fact that, there's a space and there's a place for like the Cumulus project, right, near Culver City, and they're building 1,000 units and it's mixed use, or Ivy Station, or those. That's the product that's getting built. But I really like the diversity of what you guys own and also help your clients purchase is in these historic neighborhoods as well. A 4 unit, a 8 unit, a 6 unit, it still affords the kind of like lifestyle where you work at Google or TikTok and you end the day, and certain people, yeah, they love to be in an amenity rich luxury apartment, right? Again, there's a place for that, and there's people that are going to be tenants for that. There's also a big side of tenants that want kind of that single family neighborhood like a lifestyle, like walk your dog, go jogging. And so I think LA, I'm not saying that I'm biased and I love LA, but like the diversity of these neighborhoods are really cool, right? That you can quickly be really like in downtown or in Central City, and that completely looks different than if you go into these neighborhoods and nooks and crannies, right? So
yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And we ourselves are starting to get into development ourselves, like as investors. We've got a couple properties that we're developing. One in Highland Park that's currently a triplex.
Yeah, love Highland.
But it's on a 15,000 square foot lot in RD3.
Wow.
So we technically can build up to 14. So we're proposing 10.
Yeah.
And and it's in a historic zone, so we're kind of getting into that process now.
Yeah.
And then we're working on another project, which is so it's currently a 9-unit mixed use, 6 commercial and 3 residential.
Oh wow.
And we're proposing it's on a double commercial lot. So we are proposing a 50-unit mixed use.
Yeah.
And this is in Boyle Heights.
Mm-hmm.
And, what's interesting is so our experience with the commercial units, obviously during COVID and everything, and during the pandemic, is that, it can be hard to rent out those kind of even small commercial spaces, So our proposal is actually to leave the commercial space open and turn that into kind of a mini Grand Central Market. And do like stalls, and so we can, and it can be more affordable even for vendors, and pop-ups and whatnot. And then we
ghost kitchens. Those are exploding right now.
Exactly. So now there's like an opportunity for people to kind of use it as you talked about, a communal space.
Yeah.
And
very smart.
And so we're in that, we're in it now, and we're going through plan check and everything. So so yeah, it's exciting. I think there are tremendous opportunities, and at the same time, tremendous opportunities to see, and we're very involved in the communities. Like I'm on the Silver Lake Chamber, I'm on the Boyle Heights Chamber, working with a lot of nonprofits in those areas.
Yeah, I like Boyle Heights.
Yeah, we try to be involved in those communities because I think there is, unfortunately or unfortunately, there is this sense of like, there's this narrative about like developers always being gentrifiers, always being, pressing people out of their own neighborhoods. And, we manage like hundreds of units in these areas, and we're pretty attuned to our tenant base. I mean, we have to be, right? We're always in the market. Yes. So a lot of what we are looking to do is very much because of what our tenants have asked us or said that they would like to see in those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And so, and it's obviously a constant, discussion and whatnot, but, we're trying to like get involved and encourage the type of development that, that includes neighborhoods, includes communities, so that they can feel like a part of, and it should be, it's in their neighborhoods, but in a way to, that makes sense for everybody, right? Obviously, it has to pencil out. Financially, these things have to make sense, for the ownership group and whatnot. But beyond that, like, there are certain things that communities want, and as long as you're, able to help provide those types of amenities for them, like, there can be tremendous support that we found. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you brought that up too, and I can't wait to see that topping out, and I wish you luck on that project, the 50 unit. The other point too is, I think what people don't realize is there are certain developers that won't go to those neighborhoods to even gentrify, right? They're passing them up. They're saying, oh, walking score and this and that, but underlying, the reason why they're passing. And some of them, unfortunately, are just highlighting, oh, we just want Santa Monica only. And I'm like, not everyone can build in Santa Monica, right? Like, I get why they're saying that, but it's just, it's a cop out, like it's much better to get deep. And someone like you, I think you're much more in tune and in a better position to be building in that neighborhood with those tenant base. So it was really nice, good catching up with you, Will. I'm going to let Milan kind of end this here and wrap up for us. So take it away.